The much-awaited meeting between French President Emmanuel Macron and US President Donald Trump took place in Washington. The duo discussed the negotiations in the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian ally Macron called the talks feasible, referring to Trump's return at White House a game changer. He insisted that any peace talks should be backed by a security guarantee for Ukraine. On the other hand, Trump reiterated that Europe should shoulder cost and burden of any peacekeeping deal in Ukraine. Macron had hoped to use his years-long interpersonal relationship with Trump to press Europe and Ukraine's case. Towards the end, leaders have hinted at the war ending in the next few weeks. For more on this discussion, we are joined by Keith Vaz, chairman of the Integration Foundation located in London. Keith, I wanted to ask you, how significant is the difference between President Trump's call for an immediate ceasefire and President Macron's emphasis on safeguarding Ukrainian sovereignty?
Good morning, Thomas. I think it's been a very significant meeting. They've obviously got a very special relationship. There's a bit of a bromance going on, lots of touching of knees, hands, hugging. Macron is very, very good at this. If you look at his the way in which he deals with other world leaders, he's knows exactly how to deal with the situation. And he has this special relationship with Trump to such an extent, in the middle of the discussion, he was able to touch Trump on the knee. Trump stopped speaking, and Macron explains that, in fact, Europe has not been giving loans to Ukraine. They've been giving real cash, I think he said.
Yes.
But I think there is a gap between Europe and the United States, as can be seen from the vote at the UN yesterday. A phenomenal vote there, where America and Russia and North Korea and Belarus all joined together. I mean, this is unthinkable. Just a month ago, before President Trump was elected, that America would be voting with Russia on a UN resolution. Unthinkable. But this is what happened yesterday. So it's fast moving, but I think Trump is very clear now that the European Union and Europe as a whole requires there to be a security guarantee from the Americans. Ceasefires are not enough. We need to talk about the cost, and we also need to talk about what's going to happen next. So a very significant meeting in Washington.
Yes, Macron also indicated that Europe is prepared to take a leading role in Ukraine's security and reconstruction. What might a European-led plan look like, and how could it reshape Europe's global standing?
Well, it's always been the case that Europe has had a defense capability, but they've never wanted to circumvent NATO. So they've been very, very careful about not overstepping the mark. It's always been about letting NATO take the lead without a separate European defense mechanism. Now that Trump has indicated that he's not that keen on NATO, Europe has to step up, because Europe doesn't have its own defense representative. It's got a high representative who deals with foreign affairs, but they've never had anyone on defense, because some of the countries, of course, were not in NATO in the past. Britain is now not in the EU. Therefore, there has to be a capability that's EU plus. And I think this will be favoured by all the countries concerned. The issue, of course, is where do you buy your weapons from? Because it's all very well increasing defense expenditure if you then have to spend the money on American weapons. So I think that the European Union plus will need to deal with the capability of developing and purchasing these weapons and agreeing to put troops on the ground. Keir Starmer's visiting on Thursday, very big meeting on Thursday. Of course, two members of the Security Council, France and the UK, meeting with the USA in Washington. It'll be interesting to see whether he continues with that theme. But don't forget that yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of the invasion by Russia. 17 leaders in the world went to Kyiv and met with President Zelensky and showed support for what was going on. So there is so much going on here.
Yes.
I think Europe has re-engaged and probably now has caught up with what America and Russia is doing.
Keith, I wanted to go back to that US vote at the United Nations. They were joined by North Korea, as you say. They were joined by Russia in not condemning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. How might this affect Washington's credibility and relationship with their key allies?
It's pretty shocking that America and Britain should vote on different sides. Normally, for example, if there's an Israeli motion, a motion about the Middle East, the UK would abstain. They would never actually vote against their allies. But this is not a Security Council vote, of course, this was a General Assembly vote. But this is kind of unthinkable. So, you know, number one enemy was Russia. Now, here is the United States voting with Russia. There's no kind of explanation given. It's interesting when President Trump was asked about this at the Oval Office, he said, oh, I'll give an explanation later. It was the right thing to do and all that kind of stuff. But why was it the right thing to do? Is he trying to send a message out to Russia that America is prepared to be an independent force? If it's an independent force, it should have abstained. But voting with North Korea and Russia, this must send shockwaves through the British Foreign Office and the Quai d'Orsay. I mean, I don't think people can kind of fathom what's happened yesterday. It's monumental. UN resolutions, of course, as we know, dealing with the Middle East are practically never implemented. But it's a message, it's a terrible message that America is now just prepared to vote in a different way to its key allies. What's the point of NATO if that's going to happen? It's pretty shocking stuff.
Keith Vaz, thank you very much for joining us.